Through these fixed eyes, I've watched 6 years slide by, counted every crack in these institutional tiles high. Then McMurphy burst in, red hair and thunder laugh, looked right at me, not through me like the hospital staff. From my bed, I witnessed revolution bloom, prisoner in flesh, frozen in this day room. Watched him deal cards, break rules, make grown men play, while Nurse Ratchet's control slowly slipped away. Couldn't join their fishing trip or midnight party games, but felt the freedom fever spark like flames. When Billy fell, I screamed inside my cage. When McMurphy fought, I burned with silent rage. They brought him back empty, laid him next to me. Two bodies, still as stone, but I could still see. Watched Chief grant mercy in the midnight gloom, then break away to freedom from this tomb. Now I lie here still, in this antiseptic scene, holding memories of everything I've seen. Can't move, can't speak, can't even choose to blink. But inside this shell, I'm more alive than they think. So look closer when you pass my silent frame. Behind these frozen eyes, I'm calling out your name. McMurphy knew it. Sometimes he would wink, seeing past the surface, past this body's brink. I'm watching, waiting, screaming deep within, remembering that laugh that shook what might have been. Through still eyes, I've witnessed glory rise and fall. The greatest story never told. I saw it all. The premise of the book I just read a short excerpt summary from is a book that doesn't exist. Technically, it's not a book. It exists as a short page on my personal website here. It's called One Flew Over Book, An Imagined Perspective. And what I read was a summarized version written by an AI. That was what I read aloud. What the book itself was a six-part, six-chapter, each chapter is maybe a few pages, story of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest's events as viewed from someone who was in a locked-in condition physically with full mental alertness. So I collaborated with an AI called Claude 3.5 Sonnet 200K. Don't worry about any of the letters or the words. I asked that AI, please read a book, and I give you the actual book. Here's what I talked to Claude about. I said, please read through this book and then write a new 10-page version that covers the same temporal duration, same time as the original book. The 10-page version should be told from the perspective of a perceived catatonic character mentioned in the character. Now, I wrote character twice, but it understood what I actually mentioned in the book. And then I gave it the literal PDF of the book, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, to read. That might have been a little redundant since I have a feeling it's in its database and it understands parts of it, but giving it the book itself is useful for it to contextualize things like characters and the way things occurred in the story temporally so that this character whose perspective we want to learn will be accurate and in line with the things that happened in the book. So the answer I got from Claude when I asked that question, it basically said, sure, it does want to help me all the time. I'll help you write that from Chief Bromden's perspective. Now, it guessed a character within the book that I'd want that perspective of a catatonic person to be. It didn't guess correctly, though. The book is already technically written from Chief Bromden's perspective, so there's no point in that imagining of it. So I told it, not Chief. I want to imagine the story as observed by a patient mentioned in this story to be catatonic / locked in. And I may be using those terms incorrectly, and I don't intend to offend those who may literally be observing me that have that syndrome. What did the scenario look like to them when all of it happened and they couldn't affect no change in it? That was what I wanted to clarify to Claude as we collaborate on this writing project. And now I got an answer that clued me in that it understands what I want in its output. Me, human, it, Claude. So it would give me this perspective and I would say yes or no. I could adjust what it's saying right now. I could say, I want to change some of these things it's suggesting. And I'm going to skip to the bottom. And here's what I answered. Go ahead and proceed with the summary you gave me, Claude. Imagine that the person has cognitive facilities. They can think just like someone who has average intelligence. That way there's no confusion about the tone that should be given to this internal monologue of a character. Claude knew what to do. It thought for maybe 60 seconds. I'm not even sure if it was that long. And it output this. It gave me this title, One Flew Over. Through Still Eyes is like a subtext title side story. It's great. It's straightforward. It gives me what I wanted. Once it gave me this chapter, it then asked, would you like me to continue with more detailed sections to expand it to the full 10 pages? And I said, yes, please expand that. And it gave me a summary of the premise it's going to do so that I could now approve or not approve before it went and did all this effort. And it also has this now to reference for as it builds the story for me. It says, oh, what did our thing say? It should do these things. And I go ahead and say proceed. And now we get the full story as it appears in the article I wrote. I'll switch over to my website. This is identical. I edited nothing. I thought it was so good it needed no editing. So these are the same things. And I'll skip to the bottom of this. And I'll tell you what I asked for, which is the thing that started this video. Please produce a version of the story that can be read aloud as a 60-second spoken word. I think it ended up being longer than 60 seconds. But as I read it, as monotone as I knew how, because I'm not an actor, I'm just someone reading the thing that was given to me for the purpose of audio. And then it gave me one that, I asked for another one after this that said, please don't rhyme. And it was more straightforward. But I didn't like it as much. And now that's how you make a side story or a reimagining of any story you want, as long as you have access to its document, like a text file of it. You can feed it to an AI like Claude Sonnet, play with the words, have Claude interpret the thing you want the words to be re-output as, and then delight in those results. To me, that's the fun of the AI right now. You don't need skills to get enjoyment. You just need the base level of interaction knowledge for how to talk to an AI to get things you want that you can't do. For example, I can't instantly, within 60 seconds, write a 10-page side imagining story of a character in a book written by someone else. Like, I'm not able to do that. I may never be able to do that in 60 seconds. I may never be able to do it in a decade. But the AI can, and I get the answer to my question. What would it be like to read that story? The literal answer is, as I was reading it, it brought tears to my eyes because the perspective was relatable. to me, to imagine someone unable to move and just think, okay, the world's happening around them. That would be, what does that look like? So I ask the AI and it gives me great ideas. And then I get my own concepts. And then once the text has been written, I think, how do I communicate this further? Let's have more fun with AI tools. So I think I'd like some imagery to illustrate the concepts within this text that we've been given for this One Flew Over book. So in the pages of text that are on my website for this book, there are supporting images. This image was made using AI, and it was made using an AI image generator that I actually built within an app, a bot on an AI service called Poe. So, for example, I told a bot, and I named the bot One Flew Images because I knew I'd be making images that wanted to have a certain look and output appropriate to this story. And I go ahead and made this bot. I'll show you the prompt for how it works. It is an image generator bot. It has got Recraft version 3 as its back end. That means the AI image generation is being done by a specific language model called Recraft version 3, which is literally a cutting edge model. Not literally, but it is the definition of the word cutting edge model. It's the top of the line you can get right now in terms of performance and output quality or adherence to the text you've typed. So I'm writing the prompt for this bot, and I start with generate photorealistic images from a fixed point of view. Depict the view that would be seen through the eyes of an individual who is at a psychiatric rest hospital. On the east, south, and west walls are bright windows that have crossing metal grates over them. Exclude images of people. And that is all I really had to do. Once I had that bot created, basically a thing that has a few parameters that every time I type a prompt to, it'll remember the parameters. You know, we're in a hospital, as an example, fixed perspective, etc. I'm able to just type images I want to see, and the style and consistency will be consistent throughout. So when we boot up this bot and we start typing an image prompt such as a view from a hospital bed looking up at a ceiling composed of 3 white tiles deep and 4 fluorescent lights across. That's a unique style. One ceiling tile has a crack shaped like the state of Florida. The second fluorescent light from the left is flickering in a dimly lit room. That is quite a prompt. Let's see what resulted. It resulted in a totally useful image. It didn't necessarily pick every single thing we said and keep it, but there's enough in there to feel like it's definitely useful for our purposes of illustrating a visual for a story. So I get to move on. From a slightly tilted perspective in a hospital bed, a sterile day room comes into partial view. Features include an empty nurse's station with a clear glass window and the entrance to a quiet hallway. The scene is framed as if looking through a fixed rectangle. And these are things because of the way the prompt was written that I gave this bot. It's remembering certain things, well, not this prompt, but in general, it's going to keep adhering concepts like this tiling is going to be standard, there's going to be perspective consistencies, so I like all that. And I basically get to just keep going through typing different images I'd like to see and having it all just be magically generated. This one is so good because to me it's so adherent to the thing I asked for. Ceiling tile, distinct crack resembling Florida. Surrounding tiles are clean, soft floor. Like, this is it. You can communicate this image from 10 different places around the room, for example, if you knew what to ask for. Now this one has a person in it, even though I told this bot no people, but I think it's because there's a patient. So it actually took a noun and said, I can put that in there. I don't know how to make it unseen, but whatever. Then these are all images that I have asked for, and it has delivered, and it did a really good job. Now, it took this really literally, that the east, south, and west windows are identified, and those are the crossing metal grates, so it's adhering to those things I said. And the thing about these image prompts is I could have achieved better or worse on my own if I wanted to, like actually spending a lot of time visualizing, typing in what I want. But I can achieve a lot quickly if I just ask an AI to read the original story that was written. The One Flew Over book that was written by Claude. I give that, for example, to O1 Preview, which is again, a cutting edge large language model. It thinks a long time about the questions you give it in order to give you a very comprehensive answer. So I give O1 Preview the entirety of the story that was generated by Claude. And then I tell it I want some image prompts that are related to the actions or the things in the story. And so it goes ahead and says, sure, I'm ready. I paste my story, I scroll down, and it basically says, here's your image prompts. It was maybe 60 seconds again of time. And all I had to do was copy paste all of these and put them into the image generator bot that I made in Poe as well. And so this process from start to finish, I think I generated maybe 16. Now, altogether, I generated a lot of images, but a lot. But they were all useful, even if not all of them got used. Some of them were like close to what I wanted. So all I had to do was change a few words and get that final version to be what I was seeking originally. Now I have these images. I've downloaded them because I'm going to use them on my website, to support the text. But what about the video that had the spoken word in front of it that we watched at the beginning? I mean, technically it uses these same images, but if you pay attention, some of the shots in that video are actually moving through space, whereas these are all still images. More water. And so what I took was these images, and into Poe, I put them into Runway, which instead of generating images from text, it takes images and makes videos out of them. So all I had to do was in this thing called Runway, which is within the app called Poe, is I fed it an image, this, and I fed it some text for the context of how I'd like that image to be represented in a video. And I said, static view looking up at a ceiling of fluorescent lights in a hospital hallway, deserted environment. It resulted after 60 seconds of thinking in this video. That's it. And all I needed was that. Because if I slow that down in a video editing tool, it's a slow move, very subtle, it doesn't need to do much. And I can do that for any of the images that we generated in our image bot. And so I did. And you can look at different stuff in this image and see it's basically just as though someone was standing in the environment and kind of lackadaisically filming something. And you can do so much more if you choose than the limited amount of camera move that this is doing. But for our purposes, this was sufficient. And that's all. It's all built into the app called Poe. There are different video generating AIs. There are different image generating AIs. There are different writing assistant AIs, or text generating AIs is another way to say it. And you can just have fun creating a reimagined version of a story that you like. What does another character in that story perceive? So give every book the Rashomon effect, where it's like you can get a different perspective on the same story because you're seeing what the other perspective is from the other character that didn't get a story written about them. And that's about all. I mean, really, that was it. The rest of this would be involving how to use a video editor and how to use Photoshop, which technically we didn't need to use Photoshop at all. We were able to take these images, turn them into video, take those video, edit them in Final Cut Pro, and then display them before you good people as I read this text aloud earlier. That's it. That was how you have fun with Poe, or that's how I have fun with Poe. I'm glad that now you know.